Thank you so much, first of all, for this exciting opportunity, because this is definitely not something I do every day, but even though there's always enough to do at the restaurant, bakery, I really wanted to take this opportunity. And also I wanted to partake in this innovative program on making lemonade out of lemons, meaning accessing new technologies to help young people learn, train, and have not only access of teachers in the classroom, but now really working teachers all over the world. And I'm of course very pleased to be counted in that group. So Ile de Pin has started about 18 years ago. Really, the idea was a village bakery for Teeson Island, which was then just being built and developed. And I found that it's just an incredibly exciting opportunity. And of course, over time, you know, we started with bread. We built a wood-fired oven. We had a couple of tables here, thinking we are building a bakery. But then quickly we saw that there was a need for sandwiches, salads. In the winter, we had to make soups. And all of a sudden, the first real plate appeared, as in real food. Even though we are a bakery, bread is not the only thing that we offer. For us, it's important that food is wholesome, delicious, beautiful, and supports the development of community. And we take that quite seriously. Why bread? Well, Lizzie, my partner, and I, we really have met at a bread symposium in America. And we both sort of came to that conclusion that bread is the first man-made food. Over 7,000 years ago, Egypt, Iran, possibly, as of the last 6 months, there was even bread found in what is now Mozambique, a sorghum bread. And we just found that the history of bread, just the humbleness, the simplicity of bread speaks to so many people and cultures. And the other thing, the more technical thing about bread that's so beautiful, it's a food that is hardly accessible nutritionally, meaning grain. It's really not tasting very interesting, but when it's milled and turned into bread through great fermentation, great methodology, a good bake, it becomes a food that almost everybody in the world can appreciate and gets excited about. Me, for instance, I didn't have bread for 3 days. I think I ate a half a baguette just before. And it's just amazing to me, just like great things, a great whiskey, a great champagne, those things in life that just somehow are in our DNA and that make us, that delight us. I saw some of the questions and I appreciate them, but the questions often go to the back. Where did we meet? Why did we go to Neisner? Well, it's all romantic and cute. Neisner is significant. Neisner is significant to us. We chose to be settling in a small town so that we can focus on our work. Big cities, and I lived in New York for many years, and other cities have a habit of sidetracking your vision and mission. That means business growth goes over development of products, quality, developing staff, mentoring staff, and really creating a legacy in life. And I find that cities make that very difficult. Congratulations to anybody who can make it in a city and does the same. What I really would like to talk about, bread is an interesting food, and I like comparing it with wine, cognac, coffee, chocolate, any one of those foods that they undergo a great transformation, except that bread is humble and noble, it's simple. And maybe that's why bread has never really taken off like coffee did in South Africa in the last 20 years, for example. Coffee 20 years ago was undrinkable at best. And then one or two guys started making coffee. I'm going back to the days of origin, David Dondy. I had the first great coffee with David Dondy. And of course, after that, it exploded. And today, South Africa can certainly pride itself of an awesome coffee culture. With bread, we have a third generation artisan bakers now in South Africa already. It's, you know, us at Ile de Pin maybe, and then of course the graduates of Ile de Pin, as I like to call them, like Skuan, Woodstock Bakery, the Bread Gypsy, Lucky Bread Company, and many more. And they already have been training now the next generation of bakers. I was this weekend in Cape Town, and what a wonderful bread program they have at Babylonstoren. And then I went to the chef's warehouse at Maison Estate in Franschhoek, and the chef David, he made he had a bread with every course, but not just you know, your classic European style bread, but he had Asian influences, he had flatbreads, and it was just really exciting how he included that in the food, and it wasn't obtrusive, it wasn't too much, it was perfectly arranged with bread. And I think that's where chefs hoteliers and so on can really do a better job at, in including bread meaningfully in their food program, in a food and beverage program. Yeah, and the infrastructure is getting stronger in South Africa, which is exciting. We have finally an organic farmer who, with his wife, is doing a great job up in Priska. It's incredible far away from here, but we have to start somewhere. We hope that he inspires many other farmers to farm organically and really bring great grain, great tasting grain and nutritious grain with none or a minimum of, you know, supportive materials, meaning, you know, pesticides, herbicides, and so on. While we probably can't live without them, at least to minimize them, and heads off to Löwerland for heading this off in a very intelligent and interesting way. So there's no excuse, and I'm of course being very brash, that the bread doesn't would stand behind any beverage offering, any food offering, any service offering anywhere in the country. And I think it's up to the chef, to the maitre d', the managers, to step up and do the same as they did with coffee and tea, Nigiro with tea offerings and others, which is so exciting when it comes to culinary gastronomic development in South Africa. I'm going to stop talking now for a while because I'm sure there are some students who may have questions, and if not, I'll go on.
Go on, absolutely. Crash on for the moment. Please do.
Crash on.
Yes.
All right. One of the questions, what makes good bread? Of course, that's it's a short question with a very long answer, but again, time is limited. Today, well, 20 years ago, we really almost had no choice when it came to flour. Eureka was one of the first ones to really step up and step out of the industrial mainstream farming and milling process. And since others have followed, Gideon milling, bio wheat, and I'm sure there are many other smaller farmers, regional farmers, which it should be. We shouldn't be having a national miller. We should have regional farmers and regional millers who bring the product to the market. And that's really how it is with vegetables, meat, and anything else. We can't live off a freezer and long storage of wholesome products. They lose their vitality, they lose their bioavailability, and the chefs, food producers must concern themselves more with the nutrition of food. Of course, it has to be beautiful, it has to be delicious, but we must bring in the component of nutrition in food. So to me, that's the key of how it should be. More specifically to bread, we have flour. Stone ground is almost normal today. Very critical that the germ is inside the flour. That means 80% of the nutrition that's in flour is contained in the germ, and therefore it should not be removed during the milling process, which is what happens with industrial flours. The oft used excuse of leaving the germ inside because flour becomes rancid is really maybe was interesting 100 years ago, but not today, where we have incredibly efficient logistics, we have cool areas, we have cooling technology, and there is no reason why flour should not be milled with the germ inside. We also love to see the outer layers in the flour, the aileron layers, some of the bran. That's where the other greater part of the nutrition lies. So all our breads are darker on the crumb side, on the inside. So the white flours, even in Europe, which is mostly used, we disagree with that completely. It's an inert flour. It's a flour that offers no flavor, no color, and because South Africans love bashing South Africa, and I'm on the opposite end. Europe is not all what it's cracked up to be, considering their history with bread, considering their history with food. I think it's often quite dismal what is being on offer in general. Of course, there are great individuals who do good work in Europe as well, but they are not a lot. The next thing, of course, is that we use water. It is natural. There, I think we are not awesome in Neisner here. We don't have the greatest water, so we choose to filter it twice filter it, and we are renaturalizing it by the minerals going back inside the water. I wish I would have better flour that comes straight out of the mountains like it is in Austria. And the last thing, of course, is the salt, which comes from a beautiful source of subterranean desert lakes that is being pumped up and evaporated. And I think we can't do much better than that on the salt side. The other thing, of course, besides the ingredients, we are talking now technology and short mixing periods to maintain the flavor, the color, and the nutrition of the flour. Over oxidizing is a bad call through over mixing, which happens in modern bakeries. Everything is whipped too much. Flour oxidizes. We're losing color, flavor, nutrition. Bad news. The next thing, and I think the most important thing now, of course, is fermentation. That's why I love liking bread to all fermented foods, beer, wine, champagne, and so on. This is where the flavor develops. This is where the flavor develops in tea. This is where the flavor develops in chocolate. And so it is in bread. And this is where it gets really exciting. And today, obviously, as we are very much on the forefront of development, I attended the first Sourdough symposium in Switzerland last year with 12 scientists that were involved expressing themselves over everything from farming methodologies to bioavailability of food, to the genetic modification and its impact, breeding, etc., etc. It was the most exciting place to be, because finally, at long last, the science and the practitioners are connecting to create a better product for the consumer, for the customers, and for the professionals to work with. And so mainly I want to talk for the rest about fermentation, which is sourdough, of course. Yes, fermentation with yeast is okay in very small amounts. If it is done carefully with a minimum of 18 hours to really allow the proteins to break down, the carbohydrates to break down, the enzymes to do their work, and making the grain truly nutritious and available to the body, as well as supporting the digestive system of the human. And this is where, of course, in the last 50 to 75 years, we have done an incredible amount of damage for the sake of efficiency, low cost. It doesn't help when we make bread available to lower income individuals if the bread itself is not nourishing or doesn't give the nutrition that especially people in the lower income groups need. And I'm talking specifically Africa at this point. So it is in our best interest and the best interest of everybody to make better bread that is not just beautiful, but also wholesome, and it must be nourishing. So the sourdough process is, of course, interesting for the students to know. If I would ask who knows about sourdough, most people would raise their hand, but then what is it? And that is something we are going to cover in a book that is finished already. It's lying there. We couldn't find a publisher during COVID, but it's available. Most likely we'll make it available online because we don't want to wait. Photo shoots have been finished, but it's a very practical book. It is not a pretty book for the sake of just pretty photos and another cookbook on the shelf. It is really a book for a student, for example, for a baker, for a chef, who wants to know more about the technology of sourdough, what is it about, why, how, and I'm very excited to have finished that with my editor, Nikki Werner, because it's something that is sorely needed. We need to really educate. And even the home baker, they need to be educated, not entertained. Entertaining is cool, but education and a little bit of entertainment is really the way to go in the future, in my opinion. So the sourdough is a method, and it is also an ingredient. Sourdough is really a homemade yeast, if you want to call it that way, that has a multitude of benefits during the bread baking process. And bread making process, not only during the bread baking process, but also during the eating process, during the digesting of the bread, and which is a big issue, as we know, wheat intolerance, gluten intolerance, etc., irritable bowel syndrome. That is all due to what I believe in the last 50 to 75 years of destroying the soil, destroying the wheat varietals, milling it to death, not to be harsh, and of course the bakers losing the skill of truly baking delicious, wholesome bread. The sourdough is not a difficult process, but it requires a bit more attention. And this is comes now to the answering the question of what makes good bread. Well, good bread, first of all, is observation. We constantly must observe, we must analyze, we must keep notes, we must smell, we must taste. Just like we taste coffee every day, we must taste the sourdough every day, and we must taste bread every day. And this is very important part of an education. I can't understand a stool that doesn't taste every day. I can't understand a professional that doesn't taste every day, all day. It is the sensory perception, the sensory understanding of everything at the beginning and the end of education, especially in our profession. That's why this is such a beautiful art form. The culinary arts is the finest, the most incredible art, because we can see it, we can touch it, we can smell it, we can taste it, we can digest it, we can benefit from it nutritionally and certainly emotionally. So in my book, the highest art form is the culinary arts. No other can touch it, and it's recyclable as well. I love that art. So what else do we need to talk about? I think I'm running out of time. It looks like it. Is anybody there for a question, or
you've done very well? Truly, you've done amazingly. Let me just get you the gallery view. We've got a lot of people with us, but I think because of the time frame, if there are any further questions, Markus, we'll send them through on the email, and
okay.
And, look forward to hearing back from you via that way. So
yes.
Yeah, I think that would be the best view, ultimately. But thanks so much for your time and everything else. And we look forward to coming to Neisner and tasting some delicious bread.
Would be lovely. Can I send you off with a beautiful display that Lara prepared for you?
Please.
Hold on a few more seconds. And of course, I wanted to taste with you. I don't know. Can you turn that around? No. Okay, so I don't know if you can see that. These are some of the tools that we invented. Baking plates, tea steam bars that are germane to Ile de Pin to help the home baker, but also the chef, bake beautiful bread in a normal oven with couches, the videos that we have produced. Here, of course, a few close shots of the bread. These are a bagata, our classic wheat sourdough bread, a compagno, which is a wheat and rye combination, a bit darker in texture. Then this is our organic wheat, which is, we really took a long time in perfecting that, but I think now it's absolutely beautiful. If you see a close-up shot of the crust, how the bubbles extend all the way to the inside. Our croissants today will also get 100% on quality. If you look at the alveo, the bubbles in the crumb side, this is just a most beautiful croissant made with natural flour. And yes, here the different textures. I think it's very important. I wanted to talk about how do we serve bread, just like white wine and red wine get served at different temperatures in different glasses. I think it's about time that we consider how do we serve bread in a way, what do we put on it, what do we dip it in it. You can see the rye and the whole grain breads have, of course, much a finer texture. They must be sliced beautifully and thin, while the other breads can be sliced much thicker. And as a final piece de resistance, that baguette, which I think has an incredible sheen, beautiful symmetry. And then, of course, the interior of this baguette. And I think I ate the other half this morning, which is too much bread, even for me. But it must be noted, it's been a fantastic bake day. And I'm signing out from Neisner for my first Zoom interview. Thank you so much for having me. It's awesome what you're doing, and all the best to the students and their future. Cheers.
Fantastic. Thanks a million. Truly amazing. Wonderful. Thanks, Markus. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye to all.